Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and we're doing this week's Torah Parashah, and we are up to the Torah Parashah known as Bo, and that is the 15th reading this year, and that's from Exodus 10:1 to 13:16. And we see here, this is the third of three Torah portions where they're talking about the plagues that Egypt brought upon themselves because they didn't obey Moses, who was told by our wonderful Creator to let my people go. Let the children of Israel leave Egypt and go into the promised land. And we see here in Exodus 10:1, we see, and our wonderful Creator said to Moses, "Come into Pharaoh." So he says, "Come into Pharaoh, for I have strengthened his heart and the heart of his servants, so I could show them these signs of mine before him." Now, this is very interesting because it says here in this note here that, this is frequently translated into go and not come. I have another translation here, and it says that our wonderful Creator said to Moshe, "Go to Pharaoh." But this translation says, "Come in to Pharaoh." And what the meaning of this is in Hebrew, the word come is showing that a wonderful Almighty Creator has gone ahead and prepared the way for Moses. Then he accompanying him. So he said, "Come." So he's already there. So a wonderful Creator was already there. So we didn't say go and I'm here and you go there. He says, "Look, I prepared the way for you. Come into Pharaoh. I'm here with you, and I will be with you." And the verse I really want to focus on is Exodus 10:3. Exodus 10:3 says, "How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Send my people away." This was the message to Pharaoh. How long will you refuse to humble yourself? And there's a problem going on today, not only with this story here in Exodus, but with people in general. It's the humbling of themselves and being humble. And I believe that's one of the main messages that we get from Messiah, is that we are to humble ourselves. I mean, when he cleaned the feet at the Last Supper, he was giving them, humbling yourself. This is what it comes down to. And most people in their fleshly desires want to put themselves on a pedestal and idolize themselves instead of humbling themselves. Well, we look at many examples that are given through the Torah, and this example here of how the Egyptian king, the Pharaoh, he had all that he ever needed, and he didn't want to let go of his servants, his slaves, the Israelites. So no matter what was brought to him against him, he refused to humble himself and acknowledge that a wonderful Creator was who he says he is. And it brought all these plagues amongst them. One of the plagues here it talks about was the locusts. And the locusts in the chapter 15 specifically of Exodus talks about the locusts eating every green herb in the land, and there remained no green things. Now, me being a health teacher, I can tell you one of the substances of life for our food is green things. And I'm not talking about green M&Ms. I'm talking about the greens, the leafy green vegetables, the herbs. It says it in the scriptures. In Genesis 1:29, "I give you every green herb and every seed-bearing fruit as your food." It's also the medicine, the green herbs. It says in Revelations, and it says, on each side of the river were 12 trees, and the leaves of the trees should heal the nations. And all the greens were taken away. And this is a serious thing here. And I don't know too much about nutrition. If they knew nutrition a lot back in Egypt at that time, I suppose they did. But to know that the locusts, not only were they an annoyance and being everywhere and everything, but they ate everything that was green. They left them with nothing green. And this created a problem. But still, the king Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he refused to humble himself. And just like we see later in this Torah, when the Israelites marched through the lands and they said, "We won't take anything, let us march through your land so we don't have to take a a route that's going to be more harder for us to get to our destination, and the people would not humble themselves, and they would say, well, go, we don't trust you, we don't want you, and so on. Just like we often in our fleshly desires, we won't step out of our comfort zone to help somebody. And I'm not talking about a friend, I'm talking about even a stranger. We don't step out of our comfort zone, or we live more in worry and fear than we do in humility and in trust and faith. And all of these will end up in a result that's not the ideal place for us to be. It says in Exodus 11:9, and a wonderful Creator said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to me, so my wonders can be multiplied in the land of Egypt. So we see here, and we keep reading, how it was our wonderful Creator that stirred up the hardness of the heart in Pharaoh, and created this situation to happen. And why did he do this? He did this so my works could be known throughout all the world and to all people. So he has a plan, folks, and his plan is coming into fruition, and he will bless people if they listen to his plan. It goes on to talk about the times in this week's Torah portion. It goes on to talk about one of the most important appointed times, and that is known as the Passover. First, it says the month of April will be the beginning of the months. So the first month, according to the biblical calendar, is Nisan in Hebrew, what we would call April on our pagan calendar. But that's the first month, sometime around April. And now there's another calendar that people use, the Jewish calendar, which the month starts in the fall, but this is April where it starts. And this is one of my favorite scriptures of all of Scripture here this week. It's Exodus 10:12. After he talked about all of the things we must do and the Passover and so on, he says, Exodus 10:12, For I shall pass through the land of Egypt this night. I will strike all the firstborn in the land of both men, women, and beasts, and I shall execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt, because I am the wonderful El Shaddai. I shall execute judgment against all the gods with a lowercase g, all those so-called gods that are just nothing but pieces of stone or wood or just nothing. But judgment will become against the people that idolize them. Judgment. So, people say, oh, well, we shouldn't be judgmental. Well, as believers, we have to be judgmental. How do we discern? How do we help our brothers and sisters? We have to judge, but the key is to judge, to lift people up, not tear them down. That's what we have to do. But, judgment is part of the Scriptures. But a lot of people say here, another problem we have today with Christians and Christianity says, well, we don't need to keep the old covenant, as they say, or the Old Testament. Well, it says right here in Exodus 12:14, throughout all your generations, you will keep it a feast forever. Throughout all your generations. It doesn't say first, second, third generation. It says throughout all your generations, you will keep it as a feast. And it goes on to talk about the leavened bread and exactly how to keep this feast and exactly what to do and how to do it. And then we see the firstborn, the plagues that come, and the grand finale of the plagues, which is the firstborn, which is you put the blood at the doorpost as you're commanded. And I always wondered, I said, well, what if one of the Israelites didn't put the blood on the door? Well, they were commanded to do so, and the command was, you put this blood on the door, so I'll pass over the house, and your firstborn will be spared. But if not, he will die. Well, just as the command was given to Egypt, it was also given to the Israelites. The Israelites, they were to protect themselves. Just as if one of the Egyptians would have put the blood on their doorpost, their firstborn would have been spared. Well, if one of the Israelites didn't put the blood on their doorpost, their firstborn would have died too. Because that's what he said. That was the command. You have to follow and be obedient to his word if you want to be blessed by his word. And most people today that are following his word, they feel a joy that no one else understands. Those people that are disobedient to his word, they feel a curse, or they experience curses that they put upon themselves that they don't necessarily need to deal with. But no matter where you are, no matter how disobedient you've been in the past, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow's a new day. Today's a new day. As you're watching this video, and it says in James 4:17, to know good and not to do it, to him it is sin. Well, maybe you didn't know these things when I said them, but now you know them, so what are you going to do? What I recommend you do is you start reading the Torah and seeing what the foundations of the scriptures are and what our Messiah himself taught from, and then make the right decision, and you will be blessed. If you have any comments or questions, post them below the video, and you can see all our other Torah portions and other Bible videos right here on Health Watchman. Shalom, shalom, and have a great Shabbat.
Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.